Hi, everyone, and welcome. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, but we should be good to go now. We should be live, so I can't see your comments as easily because I'm doing this through StreamYard, but I uh, I can see them, but I can't reply to them here. So I'll pop onto YouTube and reply to those as we have time, and I'll reply on screen. So let me know if you can see and hear me. And we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sorry about that we had some technical difficulties there, but we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Um, and uh, we will, uh, I'm sorry, and we will get going here. So thanks everyone again for being here. Awesome. Thank you, Yvette, for letting me know that. So I'm going to just jump right in and start right away. I'm going to pop in and share my screen with you. And I'm going to kind of do this in two stages. I'm going to do a quick presentation. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Plottr, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a keynote that you should be able to see now. And then I'm going to jump right in and do a quick little demo. We'll get right to that since we kind of have an abbreviated time, but I will stick around to answer questions kind of as we are able. I'll try to pop into YouTube to some of the other presentations, and if you have questions, you can always reach out. So we're going to talk today about how to outline and organize your books like a pro, and we're actually going to talk about 5 different ways that you can do that. And we're going to do it really fast, of course, but we're going to get through it all. So we often find that there's a few ways that authors struggle with plotting. It's plotting sometimes slows them down, or at least they feel like it slows them down. Creating and outlining is time consuming, and it is time consuming, but it can save you time in the long run. Sometimes they struggle with focus. It's hard to focus and be as productive because outlining can feel like it's not as creative as the writing process, but it is. And I'm going to talk to you about that really quick too through this presentation. Also, you struggle with plot holes and rabbit trails. I am a squirrel by nature, so I often hop down rabbit trails, or I can get down plot holes just as easily as anybody else. I found a major one in one of my recent books when I was in the revision process, and I was terribly embarrassed, even though no one else had seen it. Um, so that can happen. Keeping track of characters and places. This is where a series Bible comes in, and this is one of the best ways you can use Plottr to help improve your writing. Revision and self-editing as well. I use Plottr a lot, almost as much in the revision process as I do in the preparation process. We're going to talk about that. So who am I? I'm Troy Lambert. I'm the education lead for Plottr. I'm a mystery and thriller author of over 30 novels. I'm on novel number 32. Some of you heard that when we were in the intro time. I live in the mountains of Idaho, and I'm the president of Idaho Writers Guild this year too. So I'm not a busy guy at all. I have lots of spare time. Anyway, what is Plottr? It's a visual book outlining and story Bible software for writers. It's available in any format, Windows, Mac, Android, iOS. You can even run it in Linux. I don't know how to do that because I'm not that technical of a person, but I know it can be done. It's also available as a web app, and we've had over 50,000 writers download Plottr. And you've probably seen us all over the web. I'm not going to go into detail of these places, but we are kind of everywhere. And you might ask how Plottr can help you. It can help you plot and outline faster. I am all about speed and efficiency. I write for a living. I clearly like to eat. My wife likes nice things. So we have to, I have to make money at this. So one of those is efficiency in writing more books faster. The second thing is to organize your characters and places, kind of like we talked about across books and series. Improve your productivity and save time. Write cleaner first drafts. The cleaner your first draft, the quicker you go through your second draft, and also the less you have to pay your editor. Just a thought to throw out there for you. So what are we going to cover in this talk? Well, I'm going to talk about 5 steps to organize your books and your series with Plottr. We're going to talk about a special offer that we have just for this conference, and then I'm going to try to leave some time. I'll try to answer your questions in the chat. Okay. So these are the 5 steps we're going to go over. Create your overall book and series arcs, spot and avoid inconsistencies, plot, revise, and organize using templates, and track character details across books. And you can also export and get writing. And with that, I'm going to pop right into a demo. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share a different one, and I'm going to share my Plottr file. Now, there is a spoiler alert. If you have not read or seen The Three Little Pigs, you might get some spoilers here. I'm going to give away the ending, but hopefully you've already seen it, okay, or read it. And if you haven't and you're watching the recording, go ahead and stop and go do that. Okay, so when you first open Plottr, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a blank template, a blank thing right here. This is where you will spend most of your time, is in this timeline section. Notice up at the top of this tab is called the timeline. This is the visual outlining part of Plottr. Now, across the top, I have several different beats, and then down the side, I have a main plot. Now, I can add as many plot lines as I want. I usually add a subplot. I add a timeline because I write mysteries, and I also create a plot line for clues. Now we're going to look at some other ways that you might do that in just a minute, okay? But this, you can change the color of these plot lines. You can change the type of structure you have up here. So you can say, well, I don't write in chapters or in beats. Maybe I write in chapters or scenes. Well, I can come in the structure button right here and change that. The beauty of Plottr is you can control all of the colors, all of the way this project looks to you that works best for you. I'm going to show you today some best practices in the way that we do use it, but this is the very first step, is this visual outlining. Now at this intersection of the chapter and main plot, this is where we create what's called scene cards, okay? These scene cards contain the information. This is essentially the first point in your outline, is this first scene card. Now you notice that this has a lot more depth than a typical outline, and we're going to look at that in a minute, because you can see along this side that you can tag characters in these scene cards. You can tag places, and you can also add what's called user-created tags, and I'm going to talk to you specifically about those when we get to revision process and talking about the pacing of your story, okay? But that's basically an overview of Plottr. Now, so you don't have to watch me type forever, I'm just going to start with an already built project, and that's The Three Little Pigs. Now, you're going to notice some differences here right away. You're going to notice that I've added some act and chapter structure above some scenes, okay? The way I've done that is under the structure section that I showed you before, you can add act, chapter, and scene up to 3 levels, and you can change the way you view it. We're going to look at that in a second as well. You can also change the name of these. You could say, I write in parts, not acts. And I say, okay, you can change that to part 1. You can have this be act and the bottom level be beats, okay? Now, we're not going to go super in depth into some of these different features that you can do with Plottr, okay? Because of number one, because of time. Number one, because I want to give you all 5 ways that you can use Plottr. But we have all kinds of tutorials on our YouTube channel, all kinds of information on our website and in our documentation that'll tell you about the different ways that you can do this. Now, but there are some things that I want to show you. First of all, you can view this act structure in a couple of different ways. You can view it where it's linear. Here's the act, here's the chapter, here's the scene, chapter, scene, and then when I get to act 2 over there, it starts over again, okay? That's one way to view Plottr. If you do view Plottr this way, you can flip it horizontally. Now, I don't use it this way myself, but I've seen screenwriters use Plottr this way as a way to keep track of maybe acts across the top, scenes down the side, however you want to do it. If this way works for you, the reason we have it is it works differently for different people, okay? So you can have that default view. You can also have what's called a tab view. Now, this is really useful if you have a long project with lots of scenes and chapters, lots of chapters and scenes within it. It isn't as dramatic with the Three Little Pigs, but you can see that I have Act 1, and I'm only seeing what's in Act 1 here. And then I click on Act 2, I see what's in Act 2. I click on Act 3, I see what's in Act 3. The whole idea is this is like the visual aspect that we talked about before, where you have a corkboard or a whiteboard, but this is one on steroids that has all kinds of digital features that allow you to look at your project in brand new ways, okay? So, but I happen to like to look at it the stacked way. You may or may not. Okay, that's the structure and the act structure. Now we'll go back into these scene cards because I want to show you a couple different things that you can do here. First of all, you can see that I've tagged by characters. Okay. So not only do I have a visual here, but I also have a lot of information in these scene cards. Now I have a description, but I can also have attributes. The thing to remember about attributes in every aspect, every area of Plottr is attributes are global, templates are individual to your individual scenes. So we have attributes that you may want to know, something you want to know about every single scene in your story. I may want to know the weather, whose point of view it's told from, and maybe the time of day. These are, of course, just things I made up. You can make up almost anything that you want. Okay. Um, Now, these attributes, you can configure these by using this little configure button right here. And that you can arrange these. You can add as many attributes as you want. Now, remember, these are global. So if I add an attribute that says what I want, it adds it to every scene in this project. Okay, so just remember, global, attributes global. It adds them to every scene in this project. And also, if I come down here and delete them, it deletes that in every scene in the project. This is also where you can save your own scene templates, which is what we're going to look at next. So the other aspect of this organization in the timeline section is that you can add templates for your scenes. Now you can add, these are some that I have created. This is one of my favorites, is goal, motivation, and conflict. Each of your scenes needs these three elements. If it doesn't have them, maybe it doesn't belong in your book. And this is, I can make this argument all day long, and it's a whole seminar by itself. So I'm not going to give that today. I'm just going to tell you these templates, there's different things for different people that tell you something that you want to know about your scene, from Sarah Cannon's scene roadmap to Suzanne Lakin's detail of all the different parts of the scene that you may want to know about, to the reactive and proactive scenes, which are much simpler. Okay. So you can use any of these things to help define your scenes and what happens in them. This is for your information. A lot of times I will use templates much more in the revision process than I do in the planning process. In the planning process, I'm keeping things loose, allowing myself to be creative. When I reach the revision process, I want to know if I nailed it with this scene, and that's how I do that. Okay. Anywhere in Plottr that you can type, you have these rich text features. You can add bullet points like I've done here. You can add indent. You can add links, photos, and I'm going to tell you about those when we get to some of the other sections of Plottr. Okay. So this is part of the visual part of planning your books visually. Okay. Now, the other thing is you can look at this as in a different format. You can look at it as an outline format. This is just a different view. It's the same information that's in your timeline. And here you can do the exact same thing. You can tag places, you can tag characters, you can add these user tags that we're going to talk about in a minute. And you can go down and view, if you prefer to view your timeline linearly in an up and down fashion, this is one way that you can do that. It's still a visual aspect. If you see over here, these are all the timelines that are included in each scene, is what these different colors mean. And you can filter by one plot line at a time. Now, this brings us to another part of what's good about Plottr, is you can use Plottr to spot plot holes. Let's say that the wolf's timeline is my subplot of the story. And for me, when I'm writing a mystery or anything I'm writing really, in a subplot, the subplot has to hang together all by itself. Without, if the main plot wasn't there, does the subplot still work? Okay, is it still a story? And so I filter by my subplot, and then I look down through my outline and make sure that the story actually still works. Okay, really important. And it's a really cool ability to be able to do that. Now notice it tells you your outline's filtered so that you don't panic and think I just deleted everything that I created. Okay, and then you can just unfilter it. You can filter by a couple of plot lines at a time and see if they parallel and see if they match up in the ways that you want them to match up. But what I'm doing in this section is I'm looking for plot holes. I'm preventing them, first of all, in the planning process before they start. And then I'm looking at them again in the revision process and making sure that I didn't go off in left field somewhere and leave a plot hole somewhere that I planned. I probably had a perfect plan for fixing it, for writing it. But oddly enough, what I planned to write and what I wrote don't always match up. Okay. So, and I'm sure I'm the only one that happens to, but anyway. So, uh, in that particular case, I'm checking my work. I'm making sure everything lines up. Okay. Now, the other aspect of Plottr, the other way that Plottr can help you is to help you keep track of details across books and series. Now, I'm gonna show you a bunch of different things that are related partly to series and partly related to even just throughout your books, okay, keeping track of details. But the first thing I'm going to show you related to that is notes. Now, notes is where I keep any research that is not related to characters and places. Note that up on top there are two places for characters and places, for character development and places that I can keep track of. And I'm going to show you some really cool things that those can do as well. But you can create categories here the same as you can a couple of other places that we're going to look at. So I often create ones that say research I need to do later, pre-writing research, and then maybe a type of poison, maybe a type of killing, whatever it is that's related to this particular book. Okay. And I create a category for that note. That helps me stack those notes where I want them to be. Research I need to do later on some kind of new weapon that I don't know anything about, or pre-writing research. Now, you might say, well, what kind of attributes would you want on notes? Well, there's a few different things you might want to know about each of your notes, but one primary thing that I want to know is I want to know the source. Where did I get this information from? Okay. Because then when I'm in the revision process or in any part of the process, I can go back and say, this is where this information came from, whether that's a personal interview with somebody or something like that. So that's how I use notes. Now, you may have other things you want to include in notes, but notice I've just put an example source here. New York Times, May 2023. And this is new research I need to do later. So I've got a link or whatever here that I can go back and look at later. And often I'll throw some extra links in this area if I think I might need to do some research later. What this does is it allows you to look at all of the research you've done for your entire series, but I might not want to look at all of that at once. I might want to filter it just by the book that I'm working on. So I'm working only on the Three Little Pigs, right? And so I only want to know the research that applies to that book. So I can look at everything from my series, see all the research that I've done, but that's not always necessary. In fact, sometimes that can be distracting when you're in the middle of the writing process, which is another area where I use Plottr. So I want to limit that. So I'm going to limit it to what I need for this particular book. Okay. So this is a way to organize your research by book or by character or by place or by tags that you create and categories that you create. You can organize your notes in any way that you want, but you keep all your research in one place in a single location. It is really, really handy. Now, tracking characters across series. Now, this can be a nightmare. Okay. And I have experienced this nightmare because I didn't always create a series Bible when I first started out writing. I've been writing full time since 2009. And at that time, Plottr didn't exist. And the ways to create series Bibles seemed a little bit clunky to me. And so for the most part, I just didn't do them, which created problems for me because I would have to go back and read what color Susie's eyes were in chapter 2 of book 1. And then I would get distracted by some research I probably should have done on that book at that time, and then I'm in a Quora and Reddit forum and I know all kinds of information about that research I should have done, but I still don't remember what color Susie's eyes were. So I have to go back and look again because now I've gotten distracted, right? None of us want to get distracted like that. So we put all our character details here. Now you can do this in a variety of ways. First of all, you have a short description. Now, I like using this for the short physical description. Usually the first time I describe a character, I'll actually copy and paste it from my manuscript into Plottr right here. And the reason is that gives me the short physical description of that person. I don't need to know that much more than that about them to describe them to my reader. And then as you see, I can see this right here on the main screen, even if I'm not clicked into the character. So it allows me a quick reference to who this character is and what they look like, right? But for my main characters, I'm going to want to go a little more in depth. Now you can add thumbnail images, okay? You can also add attributes to characters. Now, like in this particular story, we've added the type of house, their role, and their gender. Now, we might also add their planet if we were writing pigs in space. I don't know. Never know. I mean, if that's your jam as a sci-fi writer, that's great. Okay, but basically you can add any details about your characters here. But here's where it gets really cool with your series is you can add the characters to the books that they're in by tagging them here. Okay. So I can say this character is also in the episode No One Wanted, right? Which is directed by J.J. Abrams and has lots of lens flares. Okay. But this one, if we click over to the Three Little Pigs, notice something that happens is only the characters that are a part of the Three Little Pigs appear here. Okay. Now also notice that some of these characters have become uncategorized, right? In the series, we might have called them one thing, but as we move through each book, we can change what the character was. So if we look here in Pig 3 is a main character in the Three Little Pigs. But when we write the Return of Mother Pig, Pig 3 is now a supporting character, and now Mother Pig has become the main character. So if your characters evolve throughout your series, you can track that right here in Plottr, and you can change attributes and details and templates to look at these characters in a different way. Okay, as the character experiences growth, you can actually track that. And that's really, really important because that character may have been a minor character in book 1, but suddenly they're a major character in book 4. And we all have experienced that in the frustration of trying to update your series Bible somehow. This lets you update it by book. Now, if we go down here, we're going to look at some different templates. Okay, we have attributes, in this case, type of house. Now we can add character templates as well. And this is another way that you can just keep an understanding in your brain of what your character is all about. So you can do everything from a full-on character bio, which tells you all kinds of things about them, or one of the most popular ones for romance writers, which is the online dating profile, so you know what your character's Tinder profile will look like, right? Or you can give your characters a personality test. Now, this is one of my favorite is the Enneagram. I'm not going to go into it in super detail because we don't have time, but this is just another way to organize your characters. Now, in this case, you see this little information button up here? If I don't know much about the Enneagram, but I think it'd be a good idea for me, I can click on this button. It takes me out to a website where I learn about the Enneagram. Okay. So it gives me some additional information. Really, it's like doing targeted research, right? Instead of getting distracted by doing a Google search and seeing that there's 16 articles on type 8s, I just go to one place and get the information that I need. It can help you eliminate distractions. Part of that self-discipline, part of that is using these tools that we have available to us to basically enable yourself to focus a large amount of the time. Okay. So that is characters and characters by book. We can add characters only by the book that they happen to be in, maybe by the episode No One Wanted. The only people left is Pig 1 and Pig number 2. Everyone else has The Wolf Strikes Back was a horrible ending for the wolf, perhaps. I don't know. We would have to see once we wrote those books. Okay. That's characters. The next section is places. Same thing, right? This is your series Bible for places. Okay. Now, and again, you can do, there's only a couple things I'm going to point out here because of the sake of time. You can add images, you can add notes and a description. You can add some attributes like who's the owner? Does it blow away? What does it symbolize? And what planet is it on? We're going to assume that it's on Earth. And we can create different categories as well based on your particular style of book. So the category may be a type of planet. It may be where a certain group of people live, whatever the case may be. But one of the things that I do that I always point out to people is I put a Google Maps link in here a lot of times because I base my places on real places, but I change the names because nobody wants a murder to happen at their cafe. And so I change the names of the places, but I put a Google Maps link here, but not to the map. This goes to the street view. So I can look around, describe that to my reader, and come right back into my writing space. Okay. So that's one of the ways that you can use this location thing to do research kind of on the fly and like describe things to your reader on the fly without getting distracted, hopefully. Again, part of that's up to you. Okay. But the last thing I'm going to go around is user tags. You can create all kinds of user tags. I've got a few examples here, but the ones that I use the most myself are pacing, slow, medium, and fast. When I'm in the revision process, I do an honest assessment of what is the pacing of this scene? If I have 3 slow scenes in a row in a thriller, that's not good. I'm going to lose my reader. If I have 3 fast scenes in a row, that's also not good because I'm going to exhaust my reader. So I need that balance of different pacing. And so I look at that and with an honest look at my scenes and my summaries and use that in the revision process to change how the reader feels when they're reading the pace of the story. Okay. So that's a quick overview of the timeline part, right? That's the timeline. But that is not all, obviously, all there is to Plottr because you've seen, well, there's some books. Well, how do you track those books? Well, that's over here under the project. So this is where you track the timelines for each of your books. So each of your books has a different timeline. Okay. Um, and so each one, you can see now we're in Return of Mother Pig. We haven't fleshed this one out yet, but we've used this thing over here. What is this action adventure plot? Well, this is a template. Plottr has several plot templates, and there's a number of ways to access them, and I'm going to show you a couple of those really quick. Now, the way I use templates is I use it two ways. I use a template when I'm in the planning process. Then I delete the template. Then when I'm in the revision process, I bring the template back after I've already written my scenes and revised my Plottr file to show what I actually wrote versus what I planned to write. And then I bring the template back and I use that in the editing process to see if my pacing is good. Okay. Now here's a way, the way to access them is here. Now you can see I have a whole bunch of templates that I have created myself, but when you first access Plottr, you will have all of these starter templates. There are over 30 of them. If you can, and there are some we have, some we don't have. There are various reasons we don't have some different ones. I won't go into that really in detail, but I'll tell you things like that. We have the simple things like the action adventure plot, which is a pretty straightforward plot that you can use for a variety of things. Notice also that like the character templates, there's an information button here that takes you out to, hey, this is where this came from. This is some more information on this template. I highly recommend you use that for research unless you're already familiar with the template, right? It will really help you out a lot. But then we've got simpler templates like Freytag's Pyramid. There's only 7 different items here. You only need to know these major tentpole events, and you can discovery write between them if you're a discovery writer. Now, some discovery writers don't use Plottr until they're done writing, and then they bring back in a template for the revision process. Okay, but we've got some more complicated ones too. Again, I won't go into super detail in there, but like the Sleuth's Journey is a super complex mystery one that allows you to write a really rich mystery. Okay, and it's based on the hero's journey, just modified for sleuths. Okay, so that's what that looks like. So each one of them has their individual timeline. But if you're starting a new book in a series, you can come over here and start with a template. You'll get the exact same templates that you would if you were in the other location, or you can start a brand new file with a template as well. So this is how you organize your series. The other way you can organize your series is you notice in this drop-down menu that you can go up to what's called the series view. Now, in the series view, this is where you can plan your entire series. So let's say your series arc or your series has a story arc as well. It's got the hero's journey, let's say. We'll just add the hero's journey in here and say that it has the hero's journey. Your overall series, let's say it has 12 books, and each book is one of these points. Okay. Now, within these templates, when we click in here, notice that there's some details in each of these. It also says add your details above this line. Usually I don't do that. I add them on a separate plot line in case I change my mind about which template that I would like to use. So that's another thing. The only other thing I'll say really quick, since we're running short on time, is don't take these percentages literally. These are a guideline. If you're in the range of these percentages, you are okay. If your inciting incident does not happen at 14.2% of your book, that is okay. If it's anywhere from 10 to 20%. Now, if your inciting incident doesn't happen until 30% or 40% of the way through your book, you may have written Life of Pi and need to rewrite the beginning of your book. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. But you can also add more templates and you can compare them. So you can say hero's journey. Maybe this isn't a hero's journey. Maybe it's action adventure. And you can add that as well. Okay. So you can use templates in the planning process, and then again in the revision process to essentially check your work. As I say all the time, writing for a living is like getting English homework every day for the rest of your life. So you're just basically coming back and checking your work without a teacher. Okay. So that's how that works. Okay, so one more thing I'm going to cover super fast here is that I'm going to cover that you. So we don't write in Plottr. You could technically, like if you click in these scene cards, like there's no time, there's no word limits here. You could write in this scene card. I don't know how you would do that, what that would look like. I think it'd be really weird, but somebody could probably do it. Like you could write your book in Plottr, but normally we don't do that. So how do we get our stuff from Plottr to another program? Well, I happen to be a Scrivener user, but we also have an export to Microsoft Word. And if you use almost any other writing software, you can usually adapt a Word document to that software. So that's the two that we have focused on is Microsoft Word and Scrivener. Now, this little button that I just clicked in the upper right-hand corner will take you to the export to Microsoft Word or Scrivener, or it has this little thing called Advanced. Well, if you click on just Microsoft Word or Scrivener, it'll just export everything in your timeline to those softwares. I don't want that. I'm a control freak, so I'm going to go into Advanced, and I'm going to choose what I'm going to export and where it's going to go. Okay. And I'm not going to go into super detail about this one either, other than that you can see that you can choose what you export, which plot lines you export. You can choose whether you export notes, characters, and places, and what those exports look like. You can save your settings across projects, which I always do because I want them to be the same. Uh, just one note: when I export to Word, I rarely ever export the images. Images just make a really big Word file when you don't really need them in your Word file, but if you want them there, you can actually export them to your Word file as well. Okay, so not going to dwell on that too much. Instead, what I'm going to do, in the interest of time, is I'm going to pop back to my presentation really quick, um, and I'm going to share that instead. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our discount that we have for you, and talk about that really quick. So let me pop back in there. Um, and again, I know this has been a whirlwind because of time issues. Again, apologize for the tech issues that we had there. But anyway, so we've covered 5 steps to organize your books and series with Plottr. Pantsers use Plottr as well. There's a few different methods that we could go into, and you can always feel free to corner me later and ask me questions about this. They include post-plotting for revising your first draft once you've already written it. Some people don't use Plottr until they're revising the first draft, or some people use it only to manage their story and series Bibles or tracking tentpole events. And you can corner me and talk to me about those, or you can check out our YouTube channel where we have all kinds of resources for pantsers as well. Plottr also helps nonfiction writers. If you're a nonfiction writer, you can develop your book story. You can outline and revise, track people and places, and consolidate your research. I've written several nonfiction books with Plottr. If you ever want to talk to me about it, just corner me. Or again, go to YouTube. We've got a couple different interviews with nonfiction books about basically how to create a nonfiction book using Plottr. So you can see how other authors have done it, and you can answer those questions for you. Now, if you're a visual thinker like me, or you just want to make things more organized, Plottr may be the right way for you. Your series Bible, again. And if you're unsure how to keep a long series on track, I have one series that has 25 books so far in the Plottr file, 16 of which have been published. So if you want to ask me questions about that, you can always corner me about that as well. And inconsistencies and plot holes across books too is really important thing to be able to do. Now we have a few case studies. I'm going to zip through them. Michael Anderle, who's a sci-fi writer, Plottr's his go-to software when he's writing a new series. The ease of use is a major selling point. Finds missing scene and can add them easily. Celia Kyle, I've seen her process before Plottr, and it's kind of terrifying and gives me shivers. So I don't talk about it real in depth. But after Plottr, she's still very much a discovery writer, but she's a more organized discovery writer. So you can corner me and talk to me about that too. And you've probably seen this guy so far, so I'm going to pretty much skip over this, other than I use Plottr's templates to map out first drafts and uncover plot holes before I publish and before it goes anywhere. So we have all kinds of tools you need to stay organized. You can map out stories, track story details. You've seen all these different things. We've got 20 plus character profile templates, 30 plot templates, and adding more all the time. And you can create your own. We also have a feature where you can import from Scrivener to revise in Plottr now. That is a really useful feature, and again, we can talk about that as well. Our latest feature is the act structure that you saw, characters by book, and import from Scrivener. We can search, duplicate, and transfer. Those a little more advanced features, but again, if you corner me sometime, I'm happy to talk to you about those as well. And we're always adding new plot and character templates. We've all got all kinds of resources um, all over the website. So yeah, we can video tutorials all over YouTube. We have a great Facebook group and a public roadmap. We've got advanced world building coming, global search and replace, and nonfiction mode are all things that are coming up. But with that, let me get to the special offer that we have for you guys because it's a very limited time special offer. 20% discount for Plottr Classic, the offline version. Through the conference, we're going to extend that all the way to June 30th. So essentially, from now to June 30th, you have that much time. You get 20% off. This is a bigger discount than we usually offer. We're doing it just for this conference. This is the website, goplottr.com/AWC. Goplottr.com/AWC, and you get that discount. Now, what the annual, I always explain the annual is that doesn't mean your plotter goes away and sucks all your files into the ether. All it means is at the end of that year, you don't get updates anymore. Of course, I recommend that you keep software updates for all the various reasons, security and all that kind of stuff. But if for some reason you couldn't renew it, wouldn't mean that your plotter disappeared. It would just mean that you don't get more updates. Okay. Number of devices, the number of devices you use Plottr on at the same time. We also have the lifetime version. Lifetime version is obviously the best deal. You're going to pay. It's going to pay for itself in a few years, and it's still relatively inexpensive for the software that you get. We also have Plottr Pro. Oops, forgot to change that. But Plottr Pro is our web version. Basically, the biggest difference with that is you can collaborate with people in real time, and it saves to the cloud, so everything syncs automatically across your devices. Okay. So if you're working with an editor, working with a co-writer, something like that, that can be really, really handy. Okay. And with that, I'm going to go to question time. If somebody could drop that Plottr address, goplottr.com/AWC in the chat, then I can stop sharing my screen and I can see you guys' questions and hopefully I can answer them for you. Oh, wow. We've got a whole bunch of things happening in the chat that I didn't see. Okay. Oh, Ed. Hey, Ed, how you doing? Yeah, make friends with the like button. I like that. Excited to hear about Plottr. Awesome. I hope that you guys, and we're also, yes, we are giving away three, I'm going to show this on the screen. We're giving away 3 one-year subscriptions to our software. That's part of the deal. So yeah, or soft air. Okay, I like that. I'm going to just put up the correction too. Anyway. And I love it flipped on my portrait monitor. You know what, Roland? I had never thought of that. I have a portrait monitor too. Oh my God. Okay. That was just eye-opening for me. I hadn't thought about that. That's so thanks, guys. You always do this. Can the templates stack, aka multiple templates to the same scene? Yep, I think I told you about that. You can add multiple templates to the same scene, multiple templates to the same character, and multiple templates to the same plot. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. But you can add as many templates as you want. And again, if you corner me at some point, I will happily show you any of these things. So yes, can I make each active attribute a different color? Ooh, no, but that's not a bad idea. I would look on our roadmap. If it's not there, add that as a request. That's an interesting idea. I forgot they had a free trial. Yes, there is a free trial. So if you haven't tried Plottr and you want to give it a shot, go and try the free trial and see if it works for you. And if you have questions, be sure to ask us. And we also have weekly trainings that you can tune into, and we give you some more details about exactly how Plottr works. So we'll try to do that as well. Tracking characters across the series is very important. Rachel, this is one of the keys that I have for doing Plottr. I had one of my series. I have the total. There's going to be a total of 50 books in the series. There's 25 so far. 16 have been published, and I went through all the characters and I went, okay, I have enough Pauls and Marys. No need for any more Pauls and Marys in this series. I can, yeah. Anyway, oh, and I love the pigs in space. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. You stole my thunder. Anyway, pretty funny. Feedback form, yes, please. I'm glad that you put that in the chat there, Rachel. Question: can you show us how it imports in Scrivener? Unfortunately, we're kind of short on time, but what I can tell you use it is basically if you have chapters as your folders and a scene underneath there, what it will import is the synopsis you have put on the card in the inspector on the right-hand side. That's what will import into Plottr. Okay. Oh, And let's see, Rachel asked a question I missed. Can you account for multiple plots within a book, a main plot and a subplot? Yes, main plot. I use main plot, subplot, timeline, clues, and sometimes I have a second plot as well. In the book that was on the screen, Teaching Moments, there's actually two main plots that don't intersect until the very end. Let's see here if there's other questions I can answer really quick. Yes, there's all kinds of stuff on our YouTube channel. Somebody mentioned that. If you have a one device license, you change computers. Yes, you deactivate and reactivate on the new one. The one device license is how many devices you're using at one time. So if you only plot on a desktop, then you only need one device. If you plot on a desktop, an iPad, and your phone, you need three. Or if you have a desktop and a laptop, for instance. Um, or that's where Pro can come in, because Pro, then it's browser based, which is what I use. So I can access it kind of anytime, anywhere type thing that I have an internet connection. T-minus 5 minutes to the happy hour. I think I'm going to join you guys for the happy hour. Real-time collaboration. Does the co-author have to have Plottr 2? Yes. You both have to have Plottr Pro, but then you can actually, and this is cool, I do it with my editing clients all the time, you can work on the same file at the same time. Okay, does that make sense? So it's like Google Docs, where you can type over each other and drive your friend crazy. You can do it that way. Okay. Now somebody has posted a link to the happy hour, and I know that I got like 2 minutes left. Am I right? Is that right? I think that is right. So I have like 2 minutes left. Yes, and working at the same time is only on Pro. And there's other advice I can give you. Do not open, if you save in a cloud, do not open the same document on two different machines from that same cloud file. Because of the autosave feature in Plottr, it will overwrite your files and create versioning issues. So be sure, if you're on the Plottr Classic, close out that file before you open it if you're sharing through like OneDrive or Dropbox or something like that. Okay, does that make sense? Only at the same time on Pro, if it is on Pro, and you both have to have Pro, because you're accessing it really over our cloud and through a browser, if that makes sense. Okay. Any other questions I can answer really quick? I know you all want to get to happy hour, and I might actually go make myself a drink before happy hour and come join you guys. And then if you want to ask me questions during the happy hour, I think you can probably at me or message me or whatever. Or you can find me on Facebook or on all the webs and all that kind of stuff. So, Six Cats Patch, you've already been drinking. I'm sort of jealous. But anyway, I'm glad that this was enlightening for you guys. I appreciate you guys being here. Again, we'll drop that link for you. But go plottr.com/AWC, 20% off. It's the best deal you're going to get Plottr around for a long time. Okay, everybody? Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. It looks like my time is up, and I'm probably going to get cut off here really quick. But thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys all in the happy hour. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. All right, thanks, guys.